Pizza Movie, written and directed by Brian Elhany and Nick Kosher, is a fast-paced comedy that follows a narrative of two outcast college boys who find drugs in their dorm ceiling. The movie really tries its best to make the simplest of scenes entertaining, and it sometimes works and sometimes falls flat. It can feel that way mainly because of perhaps the low budget the producers had to make do with. The Pizza Movie was released on both Hulu and Disney+, gaining the #1 title on both platforms on its opening weekend, which is not too shabby for a low-budget comedy film. Not to mention that the movie stars, once Stranger Things cast member Gaten Mazzarato and Sean Gambrone, who has been in Jurassic World. So these are pretty solid names in the film industry, which is perhaps where all the budget went towards. That was a joke. Now, what exactly is there to highlight about this comedy? I've already mentioned that the basic premise of this film is about two college kids getting stoned, which is already an interesting concept for a whole movie, but it also happens to highlight some character growth moments and very unique cinematic choices that I like to cover. We discover the two characters, Jack and Montgomery, two nerds that can't seem to fit in no matter what, and the setting is surprisingly in college. You'd think that things like worrying about fitting in would only be relevant to high school or middle school. I just find it difficult to believe that college students spend their time judging nerds on campus. Anyway, we find out that Lizzie, this girl who used to hang out with the two, before ditching them to feel cooler and hang out with her friends who use her for money, Lizzie accidentally consumes the drug, thinking that these were mints, oblivious to the side effects the drug carries. Jack and Montgomery, who was peer pressured by Jack, purposely consumed the drug, however, while also being careless to the unprecedented side effects. Eventually, the three team up despite their impaired relationship. In college, there are a set of different halls available to those who are dorm students. Jack, Lizzie, and Montgomery are dorm students. Everyone at this college knows that a specific hall by the name of Grok Hall is a terrible place to live in for the remaining of your college years. So much so that if you get transferred to Grok Hall, you are mourned upon by your beloved friends. Basically, they assume you're dead. You're dead to them if you get transferred to Grok Hall, essentially. The RI students confiscate all the troublemakers and people they dislikes phones to request a dorm transfer to Grok Hall, which is horrible. The protagonists eventually prevent this from happening because, well, of course, they're one of the many people at this college who get their phones stolen. And, well, eventually they prevent this from happening, and Lizzie decides that instead of ditching Jack and Montgomery for cool friends that use her for money, she decides to hang out with them instead. Jack and Montgomery's friendship was also strained during the movie due to Jack constantly pressuring Montgomery instead of including him. However, in the end, they resolve the conflict as well. It is a wholesome ending to a very chaotic movie. However, I'd like to give out some criticism. I believe that the movie was incredibly male-centered, which is fine. However, the emphasis on Lizzie's importance to the plot made it feel like she should have been classified as an essential part of the plot of the story, instead of the movie almost labeling her as a side character. I understand that the movie's focus are on the two best friends, Jack and Montgomery. However, Lizzie also falls into that same category, and well, it felt almost awkward to the message of the film, when at the end of the movie, it hints that Lizzie and Montgomery fall for one another romantically. The film makes Lizzie a romantic interest instead of an equal player in the friendship trio alongside Montgomery and Jack, which is an opportunity wasted in my opinion. Although pushing that aside, I believe the film does incorporate many elements that I do like. For example, the feature of animation in the film. While it could feel out of place in some cases, the film really makes it feel natural, and I love when films incorporate mixed media elements. I also especially enjoyed the quick-witted humor approach. It made jokes just keep moving like a fast conveyor belt, which fit well for this particular film. Overall, I'd say this film was decent. The impact on audience would be a couple of chuckles and tiny gasps of awe from the chaotic nature of some scenes. I think comedies do struggle with how they want to go about the impact of audience in most cases, since the movies weren't designed for being impactful. They were designed to be for people who just needed something to laugh at for a bit. That is the end of my analysis of the comedic film Pizza Movie.